I never expected this from my mother-in-law during harvest. My name is Alex, and I'm married to a wonderful woman named Emma. Emma and I live on a small farm surrounded by rolling fields and endless sky. Life here is simple but fulfilling, especially during harvest season when the whole family comes together to gather the fruits of our labor. Emma's mother, Sophia, lives with us. She moved in a few years ago after her husband passed away. Sophia is still a vibrant woman with an energy and grace that belies her age. Her presence on the farm has been a great help, especially during the busy times. But lately, I've started noticing something different about her. It was small things at first, like the way she would brush past me in the kitchen, her touch lingering a bit longer than necessary, or the way she looked at me with those deep, green eyes. I tried to push these thoughts away, but they kept coming back, stronger each time. One late afternoon, the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the fields. I was in the barn finishing up for the day when Sophia walked in. She wore a simple dress that clung to her figure in a way that made it hard to look away. Her hair, usually tied back, was loose and flowing around her shoulders. There was something different about her, an air of confidence and a spark in her eyes that made my heart race. "Alex, could you help me with something?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. "Of course, Sophia. What do you need?" I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need some help with the boxes in the storage room. They're too heavy for me to lift on my own," she said, giving me a small, knowing smile. I followed her to the storage room at the back of the barn. The room was dimly lit, with only a small window letting in the last rays of sunlight. Sophia pointed to a stack of boxes in the corner. As I moved to lift them, I felt her presence close behind me. Her breath was warm on my neck, sending shivers down my spine. "Thank you, Alex," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "You're always so helpful." I turned to face her, and for a moment we were inches apart. I could feel the tension between us, electric and undeniable. I tried to step back, but she reached out and placed a hand on my chest, stopping me. "Alex, there's something I've been wanting to tell you," she said, her eyes searching mine. "I've been feeling so lonely since my husband passed, and being around you has made me realize how much I've missed connection." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I knew what she was implying, and it terrified me. But at the same time, I couldn't deny the pull I felt towards her. The way she looked at me, the way her touch ignited something deep inside me, it was impossible to ignore. "Sophia, I don't know if this is a good idea," I stammered, my mind racing. "Alex, please," she whispered, stepping closer. "I need this. We both do." Her words broke down the last of my resistance. Before I knew it, I was kissing her, my hands tangling in her hair as I pulled her closer. Her body pressed against mine, soft and warm. The kiss deepened, becoming more urgent, more desperate. I knew it was wrong, but in that moment it felt so right. We pulled away, both breathing heavily. Her eyes were dark with desire, her lips slightly swollen from the kiss. I knew there was no turning back now. We were on a path that would change everything, but in that moment, I didn't care. "I want you, Alex," she whispered, her hand sliding down my chest. "I want you so much." And with those words, the dam broke. We were lost in a frenzy of passion, our bodies moving together in a rhythm as old as time. It was intense, overwhelming, and utterly consuming. In that small, dimly lit storage room, surrounded by the scent of hay and the sounds of the farm, we found solace in each other's arms. As the sun finally disappeared below the horizon, we lay there, tangled together, our breaths mingling in the cool night air. I knew this was only the beginning of something that would shake the very foundations of our lives. But in that moment, I didn't care. All I knew was that I had found something I didn't even know I was looking for, and I wasn't ready to let it go. The next morning, the first light of dawn found me wide awake, my mind replaying every detail of the previous night. I could still feel Sophia's touch, the warmth of her body, the way she had looked at me with such raw, unfiltered desire. It was all too much, and yet I craved more. I got out of bed quietly, not wanting to wake Emma. She lay peacefully beside me, unaware of the turmoil inside me. I couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt as I watched her sleep, but I pushed it aside. I needed to clear my head, and the best way to do that was to get to work. The farm had a way of demanding your attention, pulling you into the rhythm of the land and the tasks at hand. I slipped into my work clothes and headed out to the fields. The morning air was crisp, and the sky was painted with the soft hues of dawn. As I worked, my thoughts kept drifting back to Sophia, the memory of her touch, her scent, The sound of her voice echoed in my mind, making it hard to focus on anything else. A couple of hours later, I was stacking hay bales when I saw Sophia walking towards me. She wore a simple sundress that fluttered in the morning breeze, her hair shining in the early light. My heart skipped a beat, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of anticipation. "Good morning, Alex," she said, her voice carrying a note of warmth that made my heart flutter. "How are you today?" "Morning, Sophia," I replied, trying to keep my tone casual. "I'm fine, just getting started with the day's work. How about you?" "I'm good," she said, stepping closer. "I was hoping we could talk." I nodded, setting down the bale of hay. "Sure, what's on your mind?" She glanced around to make sure we were alone, then took my hand, leading me towards the barn. Once inside, she turned to face me, her eyes searching mine. "Alex, about last night. I can't stop thinking about it," she said softly. "I know it was wrong, but it felt so right. I don't regret it." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. I stepped closer, my hand reaching out to touch her cheek. "I haven't been able to stop thinking about it either, Sophia," I admitted. "But we need to be careful. Emma, she can't know." Sophia nodded, her eyes filled with a mixture of longing and understanding. "I know, Alex, but I can't pretend that what happened between us didn't mean anything. It meant everything to me." I pulled her into my arms, needing to feel her close. "It meant a lot to me too," I whispered, my lips brushing against her ear. "But we need to be smart about this. We can't let it ruin our lives." For a moment, we just stood there holding each other. The barn was quiet, the only sounds were the rustling of the hay and the distant call of birds. It felt like we were in our own little world, separate from the reality outside. Eventually, we pulled apart, knowing we couldn't stay hidden away forever. "We should get back to work," I said, reluctantly letting her go. "Yes, you're right," she agreed, smoothing down her dress. "But Alex, let's not let this be the end. I need you." Her words were like a spark, igniting the desire that still burned within me. I nodded, unable to resist her. "We won't let it end, Sophia. We'll find a way." The rest of the day passed in a blur. I threw myself into my work, trying to keep my mind off Sophia and the dangerous path we were on. But every time I saw her, every brush of her hand or glance in my direction, it brought back the memory of our night together, the promise of more to come. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I found myself standing outside the farmhouse, staring up at the stars. The sky was clear, a blanket of twinkling lights stretching out into infinity. It was a beautiful, serene night, and yet I felt anything but serene. Sophia joined me, her presence a comforting weight at my side. "It's a beautiful night," she said softly, her gaze fixed on the stars. "Yes, it is," I replied, my voice barely more than a whisper. "Sophia, I don't know where this is going to lead, but I can't deny how I feel about you." She turned to me, her eyes filled with the same mix of emotions I felt. "I feel the same way, Alex. We'll figure this out together." We stood there in silence for a while, just enjoying the quiet and each other's company. The night was full of possibilities, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together. The bond between us was too strong to ignore, and we were determined to find a way to be together, no matter what it took. The days that followed were a whirlwind of stolen moments and whispered promises. Sophia and I became experts at hiding our growing affection, careful to keep our actions from arousing suspicion. Every touch, every glance was a secret shared between us, a silent vow that kept us connected, even when we were apart. One afternoon, Emma announced she needed to go into town for supplies, leaving Sophia and me alone on the farm. The moment she drove away, the tension between us snapped like a taut string, and we found ourselves in each other's arms again, our kisses filled with a desperate need. "Alex, we need to talk," Sophia said breathlessly, pulling back just enough to look into my eyes. "This sneaking around, it can't last forever." "I know," I replied, my fingers tracing the curve of her cheek. "But what choice do we have? If Emma finds out, we'll lose everything," she finished, her voice heavy with sorrow. "But I can't bear the thought of losing you either." "Neither can I admitted, my heart aching with the weight of our predicament. "But we have to find a way to be together, without hurting Emma." As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the reality of our situation hit us both. We were walking a dangerous path, one that could lead to heartache and ruin if we weren't careful. But the pull between us was too strong to resist, and we knew we couldn't let go. We'll figure it out, Sophia said, her voice filled with determination. We'll find a way. I nodded, my resolve strengthening. Yes, we will. No matter what, we'll find a way. The rest of the day passed in a haze of longing and stolen glances. We kept our distance while Emma was around, but every moment we were alone, we made the most of it. The thrill of our secret affair was intoxicating, but it was also a constant reminder of the tightrope we were walking. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and pink, Sophia and I found ourselves alone in the kitchen. Emma was out feeding the animals, giving us a rare moment of privacy. I couldn't resist the pull any longer and pulled her into my arms, our lips meeting in a heated kiss. Sophia, I can't keep doing this, I murmured against her lips. I need you truly. I know, Alex, she replied, her hands tangling in my hair. I need you too, but we have to be careful. Our kiss deepened, our bodies pressing closer together as the desire between us flared. It was a dance of need and restraint, each touch a promise of more to come. We were lost in each other, the world outside forgotten. But the sound of footsteps brought us back to reality, and we quickly pulled apart just as Emma walked in. She looked at us with a puzzled expression, but before she could ask any questions, Sophia quickly changed the subject, distracting her with talk of dinner plans. As the evening wore on, the tension between Sophia and me grew stronger, each stolen glance and fleeting touch stoking the fire of our desire. We were playing a dangerous game, but we were too far gone to turn back now. Later that night, as I lay in bed beside Emma, my mind raced with thoughts of Sophia. The memory of her touch, the taste of her lips, the feel of her body pressed against mine. It was all too much to bear. I knew we couldn't go on like this forever, but I was willing to risk everything for the chance to be with her. As the days turned into weeks, our affair continued to grow, each stolen moment bringing us closer together. We were careful, always on guard, but the thrill of our secret love made it all worthwhile. Every touch, every kiss was a reminder of the passion we shared, a promise of a future we were determined to find. But as the harvest season drew to a close, we knew our time was running out. The days were growing shorter, and the weight of our secret was becoming harder to bear. We needed to find a solution, a way to be together without destroying the lives we had built. One afternoon, as we worked side by side in the fields, Sophia turned to me, her eyes filled with determination. Alex, we need to talk. We can't keep living like this. We need a plan. I know, I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. But what can we do? Emma deserves the truth, Sophia said firmly, but we need to find a way to tell her without causing too much pain. I nodded, knowing she was right. We'll find a way, I promised, my resolve strengthening. We'll figure this out, together. As the sun set over the fields, casting a golden glow over the land, I felt a sense of hope. The road ahead would be difficult, but with Sophia by my side, I knew we could face anything. Our love was too strong to be denied, and we were determined to find a way to be together, no matter what it took. The days that followed were filled with tension and uncertainty. Sophia and I were more careful than ever, knowing that the time for secrets was running out. We needed to find a way to be together without tearing our lives apart, but the path ahead was fraught with danger. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of colors, Sophia and I found ourselves alone in the barn. The air was thick with the scent of hay and the promise of rain, a fitting backdrop for the storm brewing between us. Sophia, we can't keep doing this, I said, my voice filled with desperation. We need to tell Emma. I know, Alex, she replied, her eyes filled with sadness. But how? How do we tell her without destroying everything? We'll find a way, I said, my resolve strengthening. We have to. As we stood there, the tension between us reaching a breaking point, the sound of footsteps echoed through the barn. Emma appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide with shock as she took in the scene before her. What's going on here? She demanded, her voice trembling with anger and hurt. Emma, we need to talk, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. There's something you need to know. Sophia stepped forward, her eyes filled with remorse. Emma, please understand. We never meant for this to happen, but Alex and I, Emma's face turned pale, her eyes filling with tears as the reality of our betrayal sank in. How could you? She whispered, her voice breaking. How could you do this to me? Emma, I'm so sorry, I said, my heart breaking at the sight of her pain. But I love Sophia. We love each other. For a moment, the world seemed to stop, the weight of our confession hanging heavy in the air. Emma's eyes were filled with a mix of anger, betrayal, and sorrow, and I knew we had shattered her heart. "I can't believe this," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I trusted you both." "Emma, please," Sophia said, stepping closer. "We never wanted to hurt you, but we couldn't deny our feelings." Emma's eyes flashed with anger, and she turned on her heel, storming out of the barn. The sound of her footsteps echoed through the silence, leaving Sophia and me standing there, our hearts heavy with the weight of our actions. As the reality of our situation sank in, I knew we had a long and difficult road ahead. We had hurt the person we loved the most, and the consequences of our actions were just beginning to unfold. But as I looked into Sophia's eyes, I felt a flicker of hope. We were in this together, and no matter what happened, we would face it side by side. Our love was strong, and we were determined to find a way to be together, no matter the cost. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Emma refused to speak to either of us, her pain and anger palpable in every silence and every tear-filled glance. The atmosphere in the farmhouse was tense, the air thick with unspoken words and broken dreams. Sophia and I did our best to give Emma space, knowing that she needed time to process the betrayal. But the weight of our actions hung heavy over us, a constant reminder of the pain we had caused. One evening, as the sun set over the fields, casting a golden glow over the land, Emma finally broke her silence. She called us into the kitchen, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice trembling. "I can't stay here, not with you two." "Emma, please," I said, my heart aching at the thought of her leaving. "We can work this out." "No, Alex," she said firmly. "We can't. The trust is broken. There's no fixing this." Sophia stepped forward, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Emma, we're so sorry. We never wanted to hurt you." Emma looked at us, her eyes filled with a mix of anger and sadness. "I need to leave," she said, her voice breaking. "I can't stay here and watch you two together." The words hit me like a punch to the gut, the reality of our actions sinking in. We had driven away the person we both loved, and the consequences of our affair were just beginning to unfold. "Where will you go?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. "I don't know," Emma replied, her eyes filled with tears. "But I can't stay here. Not anymore." As Emma packed her bags and prepared to leave, the weight of our actions hung heavy over us. We had shattered the life we had built, and the road ahead was filled with uncertainty and pain. But as Emma walked out the door, her footsteps echoing through the silence, I felt a flicker of hope. Sophia and I were in this together, and no matter what happened, we would face it side by side. Our love was strong, and we were determined to find a way to be together, no matter the cost. The days that followed Emma's departure were filled with a mix of sorrow and determination. The farmhouse felt emptier without her presence, and the weight of our actions hung heavy over us. But Sophia and I were determined to find a way forward, to build a new life together despite the pain we had caused. We spent long hours talking, trying to make sense of the whirlwind of emotions and the reality of our situation. Our love had been born out of passion and longing, but it was tempered by the guilt and regret of what we had done. "Alex, we can't keep living like this," Sophia said one evening as we sat together on the porch, watching the sun set over the fields. "We need to find a way to move forward." "I know," I replied, my heart heavy with the weight of our decisions. "But how? We've hurt Emma so much." Sophia reached out, taking my hand in hers. "We have to be honest with ourselves, Alex. We can't change the past, but we can try to make things right. We need to give Emma the space she needs to heal, and we need to focus on building a future together." Her words gave me a sense of hope, a flicker of light in the darkness that had enveloped us. We couldn't undo the past, but we could try to make amends and find a way to move forward. As the days turned into weeks, we began to rebuild our lives. We reached out to Emma, offering our apologies and trying to find a way to make amends. It was a slow and painful process, but we were determined to do whatever it took to make things right. In the quiet moments, when the weight of our actions felt too heavy to bear, Sophia and I found solace in each other. Our love had been forged in the fires of passion and regret, but it was strong and enduring. We were determined to face the future together, no matter the challenges that lay ahead. One evening, as we stood together in the fields, watching the sun set over the horizon, I felt a sense of peace. The road ahead would be difficult, but with Sophia by my side, I knew we could face anything. Our love was strong, and we were determined to find a way to be together, no matter the cost. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, I wrapped my arms around Sophia, pulling her close. We stood there in the silence, the weight of our actions heavy on our hearts, but the promise of a future together giving us hope. "We'll get through this, Alex," Sophia whispered, her voice filled with determination. "We'll find a way." "I know we will," I replied, my heart filled with love for the woman in my arms. "No matter what, we'll face it together." And with those words, we faced the future hand in hand, determined to build a life together, no matter the challenges that lay ahead. Our love was strong, and we were ready to face whatever came our way, together.